Hello, 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 hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. We are here. It is Sunday Live. We're going to talk about Tesla FSD, when it's going to become real. Before we get started, I just want to say to the YouTube censors, are we working? I guess there's a bit of a lag. I think there was like a 20-second lag at the beginning of the video. Sorry about that. So I just want to say to the YouTube censors, I'm going to stay on topic. I'm going to stay focused. I'm not going to violate the rules. So when you demonetize me and I request a review, please check the video. You're going to see that I did this, and please demonetize me quickly. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about is I've been driving FSD beta. I have the latest version, 10.12.2, and let's go. I have the latest version, 10.12.2. I keep noticing things that could be better. I kind of wanted to go down sort of a list of what I think FSD beta needs to do, or FSD needs to do, to really get to the level where it can drive for itself and it doesn't need human supervision. Just on my own experience, what I'm seeing, certain things are more obvious, certain things are less obvious. The obvious things that it needs to work on is avoiding dangerous mistakes. So a really good example that I just experienced yesterday, I was driving to the gym and I'm making what Tesla Lisa calls a front-facing, unprotected left turn. I'm going straight ahead. I'm on a main road and I'm making a left turn out of a left turn lane across traffic into the parking lot where the LA Fitness is. And the car starts creeping into the intersection. Instead of staying wheels straight, it starts curving into the intersection. And in this particular incident, I felt it went too far and I stopped and I disengaged. I think what proper defensive driving is in that situation is you keep your wheels straight, because if you get rear-ended and your wheels are straight, you just move straight forward. If you get rear-ended and your wheels are turned, then you go into oncoming traffic and you have a much more serious collision. So I would like to see some basic principles of defensive driving trained into FSD. I think that's probably the biggest safety concern I have. Some other issues that I see that need to be worked on are lane decisions. Right now, I think this has been true for a few months now. FSD beta's lane choices have been pretty bad. I mean, mostly they're good. I should just be clear. 90+% of the time, 95% of the time, its lane decisions are fine. But you're driving down the road, you're in the right-hand lane, you're making a right turn in 0.2 of a mile, and for some reason it decides to make a lane change to the middle lane instead of staying in the right lane when you're literally making a right turn soon. Or what happens to me on the way home from the gym, it's 2 lanes going westbound, and we're going to be making a left turn, and it's in the right-hand lane. It needs to make a left lane change and then a left lane change to the left turn lane, and sometimes it waits too long to make the left lane change to be able, or doesn't even make the left lane change. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what it's thinking. Straighten my picture? I don't know what that means. I think my picture's straight. Right? My picture's straight. Oh, that picture. I know what you mean now. This picture. Right. That's just the camera angle, but thank you for bringing that up. The picture's straight. It's just a camera angle. So I'd like to see defensive driving incorporated. I'd like to see better lane changes. It should recognize when it's going to be making a turn and get to that lane. I notice personally when I drive south on US 441 or Florida State Road 7 in Florida that it will tend to get in the right lane early when the right lane before the right turn we're going to make, and the right lane is always slower than the middle lane, is always slower than the left lane, and it makes sense to drive in the middle lane at least to get past the constant turning in and out traffic in the right lane. And for some reason, in that particular situation, it goes for the right lane early. So there's something about its optimization of deciding what lane to be in that's going to take some work, and we'll see what happens with it. Navigation. Navigation is probably the biggest problem. I think lane change is close, but navigation, I think the lane change decisions are partly influenced by navigation. Tesla's navigation, I think they're using open maps. It's just not that good. There's all kinds of weird quirks. When I'm driving to my old neighborhood to visit my ex-wife and my daughter, there's this route that it takes you to, which is fine. It takes you to an unmanned gate, but I have the sticker to go through the unmanned gate. And it should just take you from the main road to the gate, but for some reason the nav says it's supposed to go into the elementary school parking lot, make a circle, come back out, make a left turn, instead of just going straight to the gate. And I've had a few occasions recently where it just adopts this weird navigation. I don't know how it comes up with this weird navigation choices, but it comes up with weird navigation choices. And I think we're going to need a next generation navigation. I think that Tesla needs to take over whatever it's using for navigation now. It's going to need to take over with machine learning and learn better navigation. I don't know whether defensive driving is something that can be learned with straight machine learning. I think defensive driving, this not turning the wheels before going crossing the intersection or whatever. You're making a left turn. You don't want to turn the wheels and get rear-ended in oncoming traffic, so you should keep the wheels straight. I don't know how machine learning would learn that. I think to some extent, it should be learning from the best drivers. They know who the best drivers are, the people with 100 safety scores. So it should be watching how the best drivers drive and incorporating those decisions into its decisions, and then it would do better. The picture has a leftist tilt. That's something that I think is really, really big. Navigation, so we're coming up on AI Day 2, August 19th. And I think we're going to see a few things happen. Obviously, Dojo has to come online. We're going to have to see an acceleration of the training. I don't think we need hardware 4. Hardware 4 is the next generation hardware that's going to be in the next set of Teslas, starting with Cybertruck, if not sooner, which will have better cameras and faster processing speed. There's going to be a coming shift to raw photon counts if they haven't done that already. That'll reduce latency. I will say 10.12.2, which I'm on now, and maybe 10.12.1, which I had briefly. It's more decisive, which I think is mostly a good thing. It makes the decisions. It doesn't hesitate as much. It still needs to work on that. Wide angle lens and close-in shots will render the wall angles. You're saying, okay. So somehow I'm having a Blazing Saddles recollection where the girl and governor are behind the curtain. It's good to be the king. Wait, Mark Plot. Oh my God. That's not, but It's Good to Be the King is History of the World. It's not Blazing Saddles. So those are some things I think FSD needs to improve on. It also needs to be able to, this is where nav comes in. You're going to a supercharger and FSD beta doesn't know where the supercharger is. It should take you, if you're going to a supercharger, it should take you right to the supercharger. It should back right into the spot. That's going to be a necessary step. And it probably can do that, but I think there needs to be some training to get there. I think they can probably use Dojo and simulators to train that in simulation. At some point, they need to train it in the real world. And those are things that I don't think you can really have a Robotaxi network until the car can back itself into a supercharger spot. I think that's a necessity. It has to be able to back into a super. It does have the ability to back into a spot. It's not consistent about it. It's not very good about backing into spots. In my experience, there's an auto parking feature. It's slow and awkward, and I never use it. It'll prompt me to turn it on, and then it's just easier for me to back into the spot. I want to see a bot catch a fly with the chopsticks. Yeah. So I think those are the biggest things that stand out in my mind. Nav is huge. Incorporating defensive driving from the best drivers, the drivers with 199 safety scores, learning from that. There's the phantom slowdowns. I'm not going to call them phantom braking anymore. They're more phantom slowdowns, are getting better, but they still have a ways to go. I would think by now it would not slow down for flashing yellow lights, but it just did it to me again today. I was going 45 miles an hour in a 40 zone. Maybe it was 40, 50 in a 45. And it slowed down to like 32 miles an hour for a flashing yellow light. And like, no, we don't do that anymore. So that's the kind of thing that phantom slowdowns need to get better. I think that's a huge challenge. So I don't. Oh, Dr. Know-it-all. Brooke Chen says, Dr. Know-it-all says he knows of someone mentioning hardware 5. So I don't know if he was at the same event I was. I met a guy who claimed, whether he was telling the truth or not, I don't know. He claimed that he works on Tesla's autopilot hardware team. And he claimed that they've already done with hardware 4 and they're already working on hardware 5. Daniel Hull says, any thoughts on WP.29? I don't know what WP.29 is. Is that word perfect? What's WP.29? I don't even know what you're talking about. But thank you for the support, Daniel. So Mark is talking about the hardware. Mark says Tesla FSD, 180K, 30-second clips, 1280 by 920. I don't think it's about cameras. I think the cameras are already really good. If you look at the user interface, the screen, what the screen shows you about what the road looks like, it's picking up the cars. It's seeing the cars. It has a very good vision. There's actually this new thing in the UI that when cars are way ahead on the road, in other words, you're driving in your lane and there's nothing in your lane for a quarter mile, it still flickers to show you that it sees that car way up ahead. So that's promising. Tim Dodd is one lucky. What did Tim Dodd do? Does he have a new video with Elon out? What did he do? Shouldn't training be done 100% in virtual space? Galactic Fox says. No, the problem with training in virtual space is that you don't experience the full real world. The real world presents edge cases that face that you can't train for in the virtual world because you can't see everything coming. You can't simulate everything. The world throws things at you that you can't think of in the simulation. I should mention one other thing that stands out to me. One other problem I have consistently with FSD beta is I'm driving home and there's this spot, the last road before I turn into my development. It's driving between two shopping plazas, and there's an entrance on the right to one shopping plaza, and there's sort of an entrance on the right to the backside of the other shopping plaza. And for some reason, the car comes to a complete stop and creeps through the intersection as if there was a stop sign. And there's no stop sign, and there's no reason for it to stop, and it should just go through. So is that a nav issue? Is it seeing a stop sign that's not there? I don't know. I don't think it's seeing a stop sign. I think the nav is telling it there's a stop sign that isn't really there. And on the 10.12.1, it stopped doing it. Twice in a row it went through without stopping. And I thought, oh, they finally solved the problem. And then the last time I drove through with 10.12.1, it stopped again. And then on 10.12.2, both times I've gone through, it stops. Gate behavior, that's another one. So I live in a gated community, and my ex-wife and daughter live in a gated community. And what you need to do to enter a gated community is different. That's an edge case, right? Typically what we have in both of these communities is you have a residence entrance and a guest entrance. The guests have to pull up to a gate guard, and the residents go to the right. The car has to know whether it's a resident or not, whether it has a sticker or not, to be able to get through. And then it has to handle the gates well. So my car does not know which lane to go through, which is not surprising. They clearly haven't trained that in. And it doesn't really handle these bars come down and go up. It doesn't really handle the bars very well. It definitely needs work. And I think they're not even trying to train for gates yet, because leaving my community. I don't have this problem leaving my ex-wife's community, but leaving my community, you're driving out and it comes to the gate, and it often stops too far from the gate to trigger the gate to open. And it doesn't creep forward to get to the point where the gate will open. So that's a small thing. Gated communities, I think it's less than 5% of the US population lives in gated communities. It might be less than 1% lives in gated communities. It's not just people who live there, it's people who go into gated communities. Did Daniel Hull say it's a reg? I don't know the regulation. I don't think regulatory is an issue. I think what you're going to see is that some states will allow it. Florida has already legalized self-driving cars and robo-taxis. It's just a matter of Tesla saying we're ready to go. I don't think it requires federal approval. I think if Florida says you can go, you can go. I think we'll probably see, I think it's an interesting question, will we see robo-taxis in the boring company tunnels before we see them on regular roads? I don't think so, because I think they have to train for that environment. And I think you need a lot of tunnels to be able to have enough vehicles to train for that environment. It sounds like it's easy, but it's not necessarily. So regulatory, once it's approved in one place, once it's driving in one place and it demonstrates that it drives well in one place, and people from other places experience the Robotaxi network, they're going to say, why don't we have this where we live? It'll move very quickly. Once it's approved somewhere and people experiencing it, it'll get better. Saif Hill says, I have a 21 Civic and had two pretty heavy phantom brakes since I got it. And I mean full-on emergency braking. And one time it saved my ass. So overall, I'm glad I have it. Yeah, I have had Tesla FSD beta prevent accidents a few times. Gates don't seem like a hard fix. I don't know if it's a hard fix. Oh, so European regulations, I'm not worried about. Europe will be later. First, we got to get approval somewhere in the US. We got to see it operating somewhere in the US. Once it's working well somewhere in the US, other places in the US will adopt it. My prediction is that once Las Vegas and Orlando have it, Las Vegas and Orlando, for those who aren't American, even some who are American don't know this, those are the two major convention centers in the United States. Miami also being a major convention center. So if it's legal in Florida and it's legal in Nevada, there are going to be conventions in these places, and people will experience Robotaxi just like they'll experience boring company tunnels in Las Vegas. And once they have experience with Robotaxis and boring tunnels in those places, they're going to go home and they say, why don't we have this here? So what else? It doesn't do U-turns yet. FSD does not do U-turns yet. It needs to learn to do U-turns. There are a lot of places in the country where you don't do a lot of U-turns, but South Florida, it's very common that you have to do a U-turn to get where you're going sometimes. So U-turns are big. Parking lots could be better. I think it needs to work on parking. They need to train more on parking lots. I think they are training on parking lots. I'm not unsure about whether we're supposed to be driving FSD beta in parking lots. I'm very careful in parking lots because I'm not sure. And it limits itself to 15 miles an hour in parking lots when it's in them. When 80% of Wall Street awakens to Tesla, how much do you think the share price will be? Let me talk about that really quick. My view is that currently Tesla is underpriced. Wall Street undervalues Tesla, so Tesla stock is below what it's really worth. I think there may come a moment where it swings to the other side, when Tesla becomes the dominant car maker, when Tesla becomes the dominant robotaxi provider, when Tesla becomes the dominant AI provider, the dominant energy provider. I think at some point as we're approaching that moment, Wall Street swings the other side and might overvalue Tesla. I think that's probably at least 2 or 3 years away, but it's hard to say. Yeah, I do think we'll see boring loop Orlando. I think we'll see Orlando and Tampa are sister cities. They're really close to each other. Maybe it goes out to Canaveral. I don't think it needs to go out to Canaveral. I don't think there's so much traffic to Canaveral yet. So, what do you, just in the chat, if you've noticed other things about FSD beta that you think need to be improved, let me know what you think. I'm driving it on a daily basis basically, and it's pretty good. Which one of the things about FSD beta, to be clear, for people who drive it every day, there's this tendency to evaluate it based on how does it drive compared to how I drive. And that's not really a fair comparison because other humans don't drive the way I drive either. So one of the things I suggest to people is sit in the passenger seat with someone else driving. And keep track, a mental note at least, or write notes to yourself. How often do you feel the urge to intervene? How often does that driver do something you don't like that you would have done differently? Thunderfoot's not going to debate me. I would love to debate Thunderfoot, but he's not going to agree to debate me. It's way too easy for him. Has Florida started the tunnel yet? No, I don't believe any tunnels have been started to Florida yet. Fort Lauderdale is in negotiations with Boring Company. I believe Miami is in negotiations with the Boring Company. I haven't heard about any other cities in Florida yet. Monorail is still an issue for FSD. I think there are weird edge cases like the monorail that Gali experiences in Seattle, Hyperchange. There are some edge cases like that. Blinking yellow, as I mentioned already. Does FSD parallel park? I don't believe it parallels parks. That would be a good thing. Should debate Adam something. I'd be happy to debate Adam. But again, people I should debate, they have to want to debate me. And usually bigger channels won't come down and debate smaller channels. Pluto Planet asks, did I lose many viewers from my recent video about firearms safety? I'm going to use a different word from you. The answer is I lost about 21 subscribers. I gain about 500 subscribers a month, so I don't really worry about losing a subscriber here or there. Or if I make a video where I lose 10 or 20 subscribers, I'm just not going to lose sleep over, even 100, which has never happened. It is a concern that I know other YouTubers get concerned when they lose subscribers over a video, and I've just decided I got to make the videos I'm going to make, or if I lose my passion for making the videos I want to make, then what am I doing? Sarah Shannon says, I feel much safer in the passenger seat of my sister's Tesla. She's a nightmare driver, lives in the Seattle metro area. Sarah, does your sister drive with FSD or FSD beta? Or does she just drive a regular Tesla and you just feel safer because Tesla's a safer car? Blizzard Kill says, waiting on that 10.12.1 update. You're not going to get 10.12.1. I already have 10.12.2. The next update you get will probably be 10.12.2 or 10.12.3. I believe what happened with 10.12.1 was it was too buggy. I had 2 incidents where the car shut down, where FSD beta shut down and wouldn't drive. And Tesla Lisa also experienced that a couple times. So I think they were working out bugs in the system, and I haven't had it happen since 10.12.2, but there's probably other bugs they're trying to clear up. So maybe they're going to go to a wider release on 10.12.3. And Alexandra, nice to see you. She drives with FSD. Yeah, no, I drove with my daughter. I have 2 daughters, one who's a better driver than the other, and I drove with one who's not as good of a driver. Not that she's terrible, but I had her use FSD beta to drive us, and I felt so much more relaxed with FSD beta driving with her supervising than I would have felt if she was driving. Should there be a concern with ESG with Tesla? I did a video with Alexandra recently. If you go back on my channel, look for my videos with Alexandra. I think it was the one that we did with ARK Invest. So it could have been the next one. I don't think ESG is significant. Neil Barnett says, no more discussions on firearms. Stick to the subject you know well, namely SpaceX, etc. I know firearms really well, Neil. You might not agree with what I say, and I try to keep those topics on the Locals platform. I should mention this now. After this video is over, we started at 1 o'clock Eastern. We're at 1:23 Eastern now. I'll probably be done sometime around 2 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, I'm going to do a second live stream today on the Locals platform. There's a link in the description below. There's a link to the specific video below where I'm going to do a live stream for supporters only. So on the Locals platform, I'm trying to insulate myself from YouTube's arbitrary censorship. So I created the Locals platform as a way of doing that. I'm doing this live stream on YouTube now. We'll see if I get demonetized. I usually get demonetized when I do live streams on YouTube. Hopefully I won't be demonetized, but I'm trying to build up a second platform so I'm insulated from YouTube censorship, because YouTube censors people. And we've got an election coming up in 2022, and the censorship's probably going to heat up. So you can go, I'll be doing a second live stream today, 3 p.m. Eastern, which is an hour and a half from now. Check the link below and click on it, and open up that window. And you'd have to be a subscriber. You'd have to be not only a subscriber, but a paying supporter. I think it's $5 a month to support me on that channel. And that's one of the rewards. The main rewards are you get early access to some videos. I do some other posts. I talk about topics on there that I won't talk about mostly on YouTube. The firearms discussion, firearm safety conversation was something I don't normally talk about on YouTube. Anthony asked, would I consider casting on Rumble also? I looked at Rumble and I didn't think it was worth the effort. Locals and Rumble are integrating, so at some point they may make it easier to do that, but I haven't seen the advantage of being on Rumble, even though they're connected. Let's see. Does FSD need new hardware cameras? No, I don't think FSD needs new hardware or cameras. I think it's going to get new hardware and cameras. For all I know, they're already on the newest cars. I mean, I'm picking up a Plaid Model X in less than 2 weeks. For all we know, they're already installing the new hardware and cameras on cars. I don't think so, because I think Green the Only would have spotted it. But the new hardware and cameras will make it better, but I don't think they're necessary. Paul says, I think it needs at least hardware 4 for more computer and larger neural nets, hardware 4 for better resolution cameras to see further with more detail. I think it sees well enough, and I think they have enough compute. It's just data and training. Data and training is the big problem right now. I didn't create the Locals platform. I used the Locals platform. Dave Rubin created the Locals platform. How does TeslaBot get real-world data that works in homes, buildings, or places outside of roadways? NoobTube asks that. So I have suggested, and I have a video, at least one video talking about this. I think we're going to see a bot beta program. I think Tesla will sell TeslaBot to people who are willing to become beta testers. When we get it, it'll be, because I'm going to be one of the beta testers if at all possible. It will probably be largely useless. It will be able to walk. It'll have limited ability. And they will ask us to take it to whatever environments we want to take it to. Take it for a walk in the woods, take it for a walk on the beach, have it climb different stairways, and see how it does. And we will do the early training, and we will pay $25,000 a unit, maybe more. for the privilege of being beta testers and showing off our toy to people. This is a good question from UEIS Mail. Oh, UE Ismail? When driving with FSD beta, do you find that many errors or engagements are because the car reacts to a human driver making errors, or that FSD is wrong? I find that I don't disengage when the car reacts to a human driver. The car usually reacts well to human driver error. I disengage when I think the car is doing something wrong. And I don't always disengage when I think the car is doing. I let the car make minor mistakes to see if it corrects itself. I'm not sure that's the correct thing to do. Maybe I should be correcting it when it makes minor mistakes, but I'm not sure. What did I make of Drew Dixon, the Tesla bear? I didn't see Drew Dixon. I'll have to look at that. Mark N, could you don't put a URL, don't put a link in the URL, don't put a link in the comment. Put a comment on this video saying check out Emmett and Matt's interview with Drew Dixon, the Tesla bear. If you put a link in, YouTube will hold the comment, and I might not see it right away. If you put it in, just saying look for Drew Dixon interview, I'll see it. I'm not going to remember that's at the end of the YouTube end of this video, so I'll look at the comments later. Matthew Williamson, as someone who hasn't driven FSD personally, when I drive around the Bay Area, I cannot tell if someone is using FSD compared to someone driving their Tesla without FSD in the real world. Yeah, that's sort of the Turing test, right? If you follow a vehicle and you don't know whether the person's using FSD beta or not, can you tell? I think I can tell whether something's using FSD beta or not. I think I can pretty much spot it because I know FSD beta really. If you don't drive FSD beta, it might be harder to notice. Anthony Dexis says, if Tesla has a beta bot program, they'll certainly require customers to sign some serious liability disclaimer statements, I would imagine. Yeah, probably, but the bot will be slow. It'll be lightweight. It's not going to cause a lot of harm. As Elon grows economic pie, shouldn't printing money cause less inflation as bigger? This is a sentient asked this. As Elon grows economic pie, shouldn't printing money cause less inflation as bigger pie would need more liquidity? That's a Cathie Wood view, that technology is deflationary and you need print more money to counter the deflationary effect. I don't agree with Cathie, but I don't know. That's a macroeconomics question I'm probably not qualified to answer. Why make Tesla betas so expensive when they'll be so much cheaper to manufacture? In the early days, they won't be that cheap to manufacture. It's going to take a few iterations before they start manufacturing them at scale. So when they make 10,000, they won't be that cheap per unit. When they make a million a year, then they'll be cheap per unit. A beta tester? Do you mean I can take Beto O'Rourke for a walk? Cute. Admiral Medjay says, I'm jealous you'll own my dream car. Congratulations for getting your Plaid Model X. Please do a review. No, I'm going to do more than a review, just so folks know what's coming. There's going to be a big change in the channel, maybe starting July 1st. I'm going to be traveling. My plan is to drive around the country in the Plaid Model X. Sort of like van life, it'll be Plaid life. And I'll be making videos about life in a Plaid Model X. It won't be the only videos I make. I'm going to make my regular videos, but I'm also going to make videos. And I don't expect those videos to do that well. I just feel like making them. It's something I feel like doing. So I'll probably make two or three of those a week, if not every day. Just a Plaid life video. Here's life in a Plaid. Wish Farzad had asked Corey about Sandy's FLIR obsession. What state, in your opinion, will be the first to allow for self-driving? I think Florida has already made it legal. California's likely because Tesla's self-driving team is based in California. Texas and Nevada, those are the states that I think are most likely. I couldn't say which one, though. Thank you for subscribing, Daryl. This is an area where I live that FSD wants to drive me into parked diesel trucks. There's an area where I live that FSD wants to drive me into parked diesel trucks. Yeah, look, it makes mistakes, and you keep hitting the button. And hopefully it fixes it. Brian Smith, my friend Brian Smith, he's right here. His house is right there. It's good to see you, Brian. Brian says I'm up to a 92 rating, then I let my daughter drive. Oh well, eventually I'll get in the beta program. My brother let me drive his car, and he didn't tell me he was trying to improve his safety score, and I drove like an idiot. I probably ruined his safety score for like a week or two. FSD had to deal with sudden accident made by someone else. Well, if you're in an accident, you should hit the horn, and that will record. It should record the last 10 minutes of video in an accident, but in case it doesn't, if you hit the horn, that'll record the last 10 minutes of video, so you'll have that recording. Will I interview Mr. Monroe on my channel? I don't think Sandy Monroe is going to come on my channel, but I'd love to have him. So, am I going to live in my Plaid X? The plan is to use the Plaid X as a base and go stay with friends. I have friends all over the country, Atlanta, DC, Albany, New York, Tucson, Arizona, Austin, Texas. I have a cousin in southern New Hampshire. I have a cousin in Colorado. The theory is that I will stay on people. My brother lives in California. I have other friends in California. The theory is that I will sleep on couches or I will sleep in guest rooms. Mostly, but occasionally I'll sleep in a Cracker Barrel parking lot, a Walmart parking lot, a truck stop. The Plaid X, by the way, is not ideal for this because the second row doesn't fold to the floor. The second row is captain's chairs. They don't fold to the floor. So you have to sleep with your head at the back of the car and your feet in between the seats. It'll be a little awkward, but I've slept in the back seat of a Model 3. So while it was driving 80 miles an hour. So if I can sleep in that, I can sleep in the back of a Plaid X. What gives you confidence that Tesla can do rapid Robotaxi? Wait, what's this question here? Michael B says, what gives you confidence that Tesla can do Robotaxi? Doesn't it need to have self-driving first? It does have self-driving. My car is a self-driving car. 95% of the time, I'm in the car, it's driving itself. Maybe 90, as I like to drive. It drives itself. It's not perfect, it needs to get better. So once it gets better, it'll be able to do Robotaxi. Once it's better than human, we should allow it to do Robotaxi, because once it's better than the average human, it's going to be safer than the average human. Why wouldn't you let it drive? If FSD fails to improve, will Tesla refund $6,000 to current buyers that paid $12,000 for FSD beta? No, that's not the deal. The deal is you got potentially a $100,000 piece of software for $12,000, and you're taking the risk that it may never deliver. That's why it's beta. That's, they tell you up front, it's not there yet. We're hoping to get there. Dave Lee's doing RV life. That's different. Plaid life. Dave has a family. This is just me in the car, no girlfriends, not having my kids with me, and I'll sleep in the back seat in the back of the car occasionally. Do I think we'll be able to send out our FSD cars on 300 plus of miles? How will the car plug in? The car will back into a supercharger, and there will either be staff there to charge it, or the superchargers will deploy some sort of robo-technology. Why do I think Gary Black voices concerns about demand for Robotaxi? I don't think Gary, I love Gary. I disagree with Gary a lot. I love Gary Black. I think his role in the Tesla community is important. Communicating the way Wall Streeters and traditional investors think about Tesla, I think, is very valuable. I don't think he gets FSD. I don't think he gets the concept of Robotaxi. I don't think he fully understands where it's going. He just doesn't see it. When is Andre's 4-month vacation over? I'm not sure. No, the dog is right here. You can see the dog right there. But the dog is staying with my ex. The dog is not going with me. FSD needs to be a lot safer. Yes, FSD, of course. Well, humans are terrible drivers. FSD needs to be a lot safer. FSD needs to be a little safer. It needs to be able to handle more edge cases. It's already very safe. If you and your Plaid make it up to Oregon, let me know. Maybe we can have lunch. I mostly don't plan on spending time on the West Coast because I'm not happy with the behavior of West Coast governments. So I don't think I'm going to go to Oregon or Washington. I will almost certainly go to Los Angeles because my brother is there. My brother and his wife and their son. And I have friends in Los Angeles, so I'm tempted to go there. I do have a friend in Portland that I would like to visit, but I just don't see myself going. I did not like my last experience on the West Coast. If there's a Tesla event on the West Coast, I'll go to that. But the way that the West Coast handled the thing for the last 2 years was not acceptable to me, and I do not want to experience that. So you can live there, and when we drove from Los Angeles to Florida and we crossed into the Arizona border, I said, welcome to the free states. And if you've lived in the free states, you'll understand why I don't want to spend time in the not free states and the dystopian states. Government will wait until FSD is better than all humans. No, it's not. It doesn't have to be better than all. Listen, if it's better than 90% of humans, and if it mostly replaces drivers who are worse than it, then it makes the road safer. As a beta user, what is your timeline until it's ready to deploy? I can't give it. I personally think that we will see, we're in 2022 now, mid-2022. I think we will see possibly by the end of this year, with Dojo improving things, more likely sometime next year, 2023, we're going to see FSD beta clearly better than human, but clearly better than the average human driver, better than the average American driver, I'll say. American drivers are probably on average better than the average human driver because there's a lot of bad drivers in other countries. So I think we're going to see better than the average human by the end of this year, significantly better than the average human by early next year, and Robotaxi sometime by the end of 2023. They finished bot before FSD, then it can drive us around. No, I know you're trying to be funny, but that's so many people think that it's just so misleading. Government wait. How many thousands will human drivers kill in the meantime while the FSD is already safer? Exactly the concern. If FSD is safer than human, why would you make people wait? Why would you make people wait and ride with unsafe humans? I believe Robotaxi may have almost 100% of the Uber market, but in terms of replacing car ownership, not so much. Maybe 10% of the population owns cars now. We'll give them a... So Philip, this is an interesting point from Philip Mazie. So Philip, I strongly disagree with you. Here's the key distinction. You are probably relatively wealthy like I am, and the cost of owning and maintaining a car is not that big of a deal to you and me. We can afford it based on the wealth that we have. The average American car owner, it's a stretch to own and maintain a car. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of time. And if Robotaxi offers them a lower cost, more convenient way of living, then they will switch if it's lower cost. So as long as FSD Robotaxis cost more than $1 a mile and the cost of owning your own car is 60 or 70 cents a mile, I don't think you're going to see a big shift. You will see people shift. Like people with DUI convictions pay a lot more for car insurance. People with bad credit ratings pay a lot more for insurance and for car loans. So if you get those people are going to have higher cost per mile of driving, and they're going to be more likely to shift sooner. But once the cost of a Robotaxi ride drops below the average cost per mile for a typical person, once it gets down to say 50 cents a mile, you're going to see a sea change, and a large share of the population is going to shift. Jim Jenkins says, Plaid X, just pull one seat and store it. What I heard was that removing the seat is very, very difficult. And I don't think I need to do it. I think it's probably easier to just leave the seats in. It's just me sleeping in the car. If I all of a sudden have a girlfriend who's doing Plaid life with me, then maybe, but I don't think so. I did see the suggestion of not only pulling one seat, but pulling both, because you'd still have the third row. What part of Wall Street currently recognizes invested in Tesla? That's a good question. There are certain funds that are restricted based on like ESG requirements or other requirements. They don't invest. There's certain funds that are, or investors who hold off based on investment grade bond ratings, which are stupid. It's stupid that Tesla doesn't have an investment grade bond rating, but I think those are factors that stop it. Charge. I'm trying to charge. My computer's getting old, and I don't know if power adapter battery is not charging. Come on. This live stream is going to end. Oh, there we go. Yes, no. That's going to be interesting. All right. Yeah, you know, teenagers are expensive to have driving. Oh, this is so frustrating. I need a new laptop. Please support me. Your donations will go to my new laptop. I'm doing a laptop because I'm at my ex's house right now instead of my regular computer. And when I'm on the road, I'll be on the laptop, or a laptop. I may have to get a new M1 laptop or something. Aren't you working? Oh. Somebody needs to make a dedicated Starlink channel. It's getting large very quickly. Starlink channel? Well, Alien Space is kind of Starlink girl. So the Alien Space channel is a little bit like that. My husband caught the thing in Florida before vaccines, which knocked him for the past 6 months. He's mostly better now. Okay. I can afford 2 cars and cannot wait to have the Robotaxi option. I don't enjoy driving in Los Angeles. Exactly. Some people don't like driving. If you don't have to drive, then you can do other stuff in the car while the car drives you. The convenience of having the car drop you off at the front, pick you up at the front. Robert says, do some hypothetical dividend math for us in the year 2030. I don't focus on dividends or stock splits or stock buybacks. I don't think those are important. I think those things tend to be the same thing spaced different ways. To me, it's what's the value of the company and how much of the company do I own? How much of the company do you own? What's that value? Other than solving the money problem, what Tesla YouTubers do you watch? I actually don't watch Stephen Mark Ryan's channel. I find that Stephen and I agree on too much, and I don't learn anything from watching somebody who says the same things. I love Stephen. I just don't tend to watch his channel. I follow him on Twitter more. I watch Dave Lee. I watch Rob Maurer, Tesla Daily. I watch Jordan Gieske, Limiting Factors, my favorite channel. I watch more SpaceX videos than I watch Tesla videos. I get more of my Tesla information from Twitter than I get from YouTube because the Tesla Twitter information is much quicker than the YouTube information. So yeah, I watch SpaceX channels like Everyday Astronaut, Marcus House, Scott Manley, NASA Space Flight. At FitConnect says, I drove Uber Greater Los Angeles area part-time for 5 years, over 5,000 passenger rides. Always ask questions about car ownership, etc. Majority opted to not own a car and found rideshare more economical. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. There are already people who've chosen to ride Uber rather than own their own car. As the cost of Robotaxi falls much lower than Uber, you'll see more people make that choice. Will Cybertruck be 800 volt technology? I don't think they're going 800 volt. I think that Sandy Monroe asked Elon about it. Elon didn't think the gain from going to 800 volt was that big of a deal. I think going from 12 volt to 48 volt on the accessories to the car is a bigger deal, and I think they are going to do that on Cybertruck and the Robotaxi vehicle. Expect the corp I work for will share Sean, and I expect the corp I work for will put us in Robotaxi so we can work between client visits versus non-productive drive time. Yeah, I mean, that's if you want to be productive with your time, playing the line following game. Like driving a car is mostly playing the line following game. You're following the lines in the road, and that's a really easy task, but it takes our brain away from doing other things that are more useful. Robert Hirsch says, I saw a Tim Dodd video with Elon at the launch tower, but I don't know if it's the latest one. I know there's more, at least one more coming, and I don't know if it's happened or not. Will the upfront cost of producing robotaxis for the Tesla-owned fleet hurt their financials? Since they don't sell them, they will be taking the brunt of those costs every year. Tyler Ward, good question. If the robotaxis immediately go into robotaxi use for Tesla, they will generate more revenue in their first year than they will cost to build. They will be net revenue positive, and they will generate more revenue in a year than they would sell a Model Y for, and maybe more than a Model S would sell for. So I don't think that's a huge issue. Have I done much research into Palantir? Good question, Brooke. I've looked at Palantir a lot. I fundamentally don't understand their business model. I don't understand how their business grows. I understand the business model a little bit, but I don't understand the growth path. And I've asked several people who are Palantir fans, explain the growth path to me. How does it grow? And I just don't see the growth path for Palantir. MJC says, hello, Warren. As far as Robotaxi's charging, could they have a passive charger system installed where the car backs up with a charger and it charges via a charger that is implanted in the ground? Yes, called inductive charging. I actually was part of a conversation where Drew Baglina was saying that inductive charging is a possibility. I don't think inductive charging is as fast as plugging in. I don't think it's a big deal to have a human walk around and plug vehicles in and unplug vehicles. I think that the cost, if somebody's working for $20 an hour, they're going to be able to charge way more than one car an hour, right? I mean, they're going to charge 20 cars an hour, 40 cars an hour. That doesn't take a lot of time to plug a car in and unplug another car. So I think that the labor cost is very low to have humans manage the charging of the vehicles as they pull in. But ultimately, yeah, I think we'll see some kind of robo-charger. Does creating a dedicated Robotaxi model in 2024 imply any possibility that the existing sexy line will be more limited for Robotaxi? It depends on what the Robotaxi is going to be. I think Cybertruck will definitely have a place in the Robotaxi network. I think there's less of a place for the 3, X, Y, and S in a Robotaxi world. But initially, there's going to be a high volume of 3s and Ys available to do it. And they'll still be cost effective to do it. So as long as the stock is, the vehicles are there, the inventory is there to do it, they'll do it until Robotaxis become so much more efficient and price. As long as price is high, even though It costs you, let's say it costs you 8 cents a mile to run a Robotaxi and it costs you 15 cents a mile to run a Model 3. If you're getting $1 a mile from the customer, the difference between 8 and 15 cents isn't a big deal. You're still making money on the 15 cents a mile vehicle. Do I still consider surrogate mom? I'm still thinking about doing a surrogate mother. Yes, that's an out there question. Tesla bot could do the plugging and unplugging. That's true. That could be a very useful function for Tesla bot, is unplugging and plugging vehicles. A robotic arm is all the charger. There's some video that Tesla did a while back of a snake charger, a snake arm that goes out and finds the vehicle's plug and plugs in. I don't think it's going to be very hard for Tesla to set that up if they decide they want to. Is the hardware 3 in my Model Y upgradable to hardware 4 new cameras? I think it is upgradable. I think it would be foolish for Tesla not to make hardware 4 an upgrade from hardware 3. The chipset will probably be smaller, or the chipset will ultimately be smaller than the current chipset, but they can make it so it fits on the same board, and the cameras will probably fit in the same slots. I would think that the upgrade cost will either be free, as in Tesla won't bother charging you for it, it'll be minimal. You know, $100. I just can't imagine it'll cost that much to do it. Maybe $250. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be a big cost if it costs anything at all. Because if you're going to be using the hardware 4 in the Robotaxi network, Tesla's making money off you putting your vehicle on the Robotaxi network, so they're going to want you to have the hardware. When will we sight Tesla bot inside Giga Texas? Brian, you're closer than I am. I think we're going to see it on August 19th at AI Day 2, right? Do I think Tesla will open multiple restaurant locations at supercharging stations in the coming years? I know they're opening a concept, and I think they'll see how it works. I don't think that's going to be a big chunk of, I don't think that's going to be meaningful revenue for Tesla for the future. I think it could be something, it could be a nice experience thing, it helps the brand. I don't think that's going to be a big deal for Tesla's future, and I focus on what's going to be a big deal for Tesla's future, not do they own 10 restaurants at their supercharging locations. Mostly, I think their supercharging locations already have restaurants nearby, so I don't see the big ad of having Tesla restaurant attached to it. Does BlackBerry QNX real-time operating system help reland SpaceX and Blue Origin boosters? I haven't seen that. I don't think so. Would buying Lyft be an option for Tesla to quick start the Robotaxi business? So I have a theory that Tesla would buy Lyft or Uber, that they have some data that might be useful for developing the Robotaxi network. I don't know it. I mean, they have customer data, so that's one thing. They also have sort of a knowledge of where customers like to be picked up. And if you could incorporate that data and where they like to be dropped off, if you can incorporate that data into the software so the car knows roughly when somebody says they want to ride from this place, that riders have a tendency to be at this location. I don't know how useful that is. Lyft would be cheap to acquire. Robo waitress on roller skates. For those who ordered Cybertruck recently, is FSD option out of the question? I don't understand what you mean. I thought you could order FSD with your Robotaxi order, with your Cybertruck order. Did they take away that option? I don't know. Saw a video with a Tesla bear. His theory is FSD will slow global car sales. Yes, that's the whole point. We won't need as many cars, but Tesla's number 1 or 2, they'll be raking in cash. Yes and no. As Robotaxi gets deployed, don't forget there's 2 billion cars in the world. There's probably, was there 75 million cars sold a year? If you make 1 million Robotaxis, oh, thank you, Elango. Thank you for your support. That will go towards my Apple MacBook M1 MacBook. Oh, we're charging now. The laptop is charging now. That's good news. I don't know. It's this weird thing where I plug it in and it gives me this weird plugged in sign, but it doesn't show that it's actually charging. Speaking of which, Warren, you know Tesla has a good relationship with Wawa's. Do you know the delay with Buc-ee's becoming... I think Buc-ee's are already starting to roll out superchargers. I know there was a supercharger at the Buc-ee's in Houston. So I do think you're going to see more superchargers at Buc-ee's. I think Buc-ee's is smart and forward-looking like Wawa. They will adopt superchargers as well. What I want to see is, I want to see McDonald's and Starbucks adopting level 2 chargers. So you stop at a McDonald's and you charge, and you don't need a supercharge. I mean, supercharging would make sense at a McDonald's because you go to McDonald's for about a half hour. So if you, or Taco Bell or Starbucks, you know, you go and charge and you sit and have coffee. Now, a lot of superchargers are near fast food restaurants already. But I think if you had a freestanding Starbucks or a freestanding McDonald's, it would make sense to add a couple superchargers. Or at least level 2 destination chargers that charge at, you know, not 250 kilowatts, but maybe they charge at 16 kilowatts. Like I'm in the garage right now charging at 8 kilowatts. And that means I get 8 kilowatt hours in an hour or 4 kilowatt hours in a half hour. So if they could add like 16 kilowatt chargers or 32 kilowatt chargers, that would make going to McDonald's or Starbucks something. And you know, you could have have an app that they charge you a couple bucks for using their charger. You know, you're going in and buying stuff in the store. They spend $1 on charging your car. It seems like a win-win trade-off. When do I think Rivian will deliver the 100,000 electric vehicle vans to Amazon? I think that they will. There's an open question whether they're going to succeed in that. I think they probably will. I think there's a timeline for it. It's over like a 4-year span starting next year, I think. Hi, Rolando. Let's see. Uber, Lyft have ad experience. Yeah, I could totally see ads in a Robo-taxi. I could see vending machines in a Robo-taxi. I'm just looking for other questions or comments. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So, SpaceX news. I'm going to be going up to Canaveral, meeting a friend at Canaveral area next week. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it's Monday. I think Monday, tomorrow, I'm driving up to near Canaveral, meeting up with a friend, and we're going to explore the Canaveral area a bit. Both of us are fascinated with SpaceX. Both of us are fascinated with the Canaveral area, so we're going to hang out and check out the Canaveral area. And I'm thinking I'm going to be moving to Canaveral after I'm done with my Plaid X adventure. I'm going to move to the Canaveral area after the Plaid X adventure, and then ultimately I'm going to buy land and buy a home and build my solar farm prototype or solar farm apartment prototype or whatever. Declan says first Model 3 leases were introduced Q2 2019 for a 36-month term, meaning the leases are ending this quarter, so a new source of revenue from sales of these cars at current market prices. Are thoughts? Well, there's an interesting question. Are they going to sell the Model 3s or are they going to hold them for Robo-taxis? Elon said they were going to keep them and hold them for Robo-taxis. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. It would be an interesting revenue point if they start getting those and they start selling them. That is an interesting point, Declan. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's a good point. Can I see Tesla making phones, watches? No, Tesla will not make phones and watches. I get asked that all the time. Tesla's not going to make phones and watches. The market, Elon likes going into markets that are not significantly competitive and have not advanced technologically. Phones and watches have had major technological advancement. It's a very competitive market segment. Tesla doesn't have much to add to that. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Admiral Medjay says, should Tesla fight tooth and nails to keep its supercharger network exclusivity, or will the Azov Battalion best pals from the Demo force them to share it? They're not going to be forced to share it. It is in Tesla's interest to share the superchargers with other EVs. They will charge them a higher price. They will have to have adapters, but it'll become a revenue source for Tesla. And they will set it up. First of all, there aren't that many other EVs, so it's not going to crowd the superchargers. And they're going to build out more superchargers, so that won't be an issue. And as the superchargers get faster, that means that they become more available because the people who come in don't charge as long. Glad to hear you're back, Mark Potachnik. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. Yeah, Lucid's down a lot. Anthony Daxa says Lucid stock is down a lot. Lucid is, I'm sorry, I don't think Lucid's going to make it. Anthony Daxa says, so Warren, you're moving to Cocoa Beach? I don't know if it's going to be Cocoa Beach. I probably want to be inland. I probably don't want to be on the water. I probably want to have at least an acre. I have some vision of what I want, and I probably want to have some land. And I probably don't want to be too close to the populations, although one of my other theories is I'm going to move to a neighborhood that has young children in a good school district so that when I have my kids, they'll be in a neighborhood with other kids. I haven't made that decision yet. What channel on YouTube, in your opinion, is the most anti-Elon? I don't watch him enough. I don't know. CNBC, Common Sense Skeptic, Thunderfoot. Those are two of the big anti-Elon channels. Is there a supercharger antitrust question? No, because there's plenty of other superchargers. You can charge at your house. And I don't think Tesla's going to sell electricity at market cost. I think Tesla's already charging above market for electricity. I mean, when I charge at the supercharger, it's now 24 cents a kilowatt hour or 48 cents a kilowatt hour. or it's in 40 cents a kilowatt hour some other places. My cost in my garage is 13 cents a kilowatt hour. Tesla probably pays less for its electricity than I do. So even at 22 cents or 24 cents a kilowatt hour, they're making some kind of profit on it. Should Elon be a bit embarrassed for confidently saying a few years ago the first Mars mission in 2022 and the 2 manned missions in 2024? No, he shouldn't be embarrassed. He's optimistic. He's always been that way. It's Elon time. Don't sweat it. User-owned taxis, or will Tesla own the fleet? I think there will be both user-owned taxis and Tesla-owned taxis, but ultimately Tesla-owned taxis will dominate the market because it's more cost-effective for Tesla to own its own robo-taxis. The user-owned robo-taxis won't put as many hours in. In other words, if I buy a robo-taxi and I drive myself to work and then send it out on the market and then have it pick me up, it's going to spend more time in my garage than it will if it's a Tesla-owned robo-taxi. A Tesla-owned robo-taxi is going to work 18 hours a day. A regular user-owned robo-taxi might work 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day. Would be a brilliant move to sell off-lease Model 3s at current prices. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the off-lease Model 3s. Stay away from Orange County, Florida. Got ruined by certain demographics after Hurricane Maria, unfortunately. Every county in Florida has its problems. Orange County isn't that bad. But I'm planning on being, what is it called, Brevard County? I think I'm looking at Brevard County. Not necessarily Brevard, but I'm looking at Brevard. With upcoming retirement of ISS, when do you see private space stations launching? That's a great question. I think that, I don't know when the ISS is really going to retire. I think that we're going to see Starship serve, you put 3 starships together and you have a huge space station. I think Starship itself will become a space station. It'll be a format for a space station. A better format than the current space station. And the cost of getting payloads to orbit is going to be so low with Starship that it's hard to imagine what the possibilities are. But yeah, Mark, I agree with Mark that a Starship-based space station is going to make a lot of sense. Because if you think about it, it's going to cost about $20 million to make a Starship, if I'm right, maybe less than that. So you just launch a Starship up, you fit it out to be a space station, and there you go. So I think because you're mass producing Starships. So that's a low-cost way of doing it. Amy Neiman says, come to Brevard. Amy, I'm coming. I'm going to be there tomorrow, Amy. Amy, text me. If I'm gonna put my number in the chat, Amy. Text me at this number. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe we can arrange to meet up. That's my number in the chat, Amy. West of I-95 is a jungle. I want to be in a jungle. I want to be in a jungle. I prefer jungles. Philip says his parents have a place in Titusville. It's a real sleeper and a lot of great deals there. Yeah, Titusville I think is less expensive than other parts. I haven't figured. That's what part of going up there tomorrow is to scope out and see where we want to be. I think Melbourne is a very popular spot. Cocoa Beach is an expensive but popular spot. I'm not sure what the best place is to raise kids there. Probably Melbourne. Kind of want to homeschool, but I want to be in a neighborhood with kids. So, Johan White says, I just watched Common Sense Skeptic. I started freaking out, I'll be honest. Common Sense Skeptic makes a lot of mistakes, and I've torn down, at some point I'll do a teardown of some of his videos. If Elon buys Twitter, what is he going to do with Tesla? If Elon buys Twitter, he's going to do the same thing he's been doing with Tesla all along. The idea that whatever Elon does with Twitter has anything to do with Tesla is a misunderstanding. He's putting very little time into Twitter. The major distraction from Tesla is SpaceX, not Twitter. He probably spends more than 50% of his time with SpaceX, 40% of his time with Tesla, and a tiny bit of his time with Twitter and Neuralink and Boring Company. Why doesn't Elon create a small test city with FSD, no drivers, no interventions? I think it's possible that we'll see a test location, but you don't want to restrict Robotaxi to a geofenced area because that misses the point. The point is to train it to drive better. It's not like it gets to a certain point we say, okay, it's done. It's going to be constantly learning and constantly getting better. If we cannot buy the stock, what is your recommended ETF or other ways to invest in Tesla? I don't understand the question. If you want to buy Tesla stock, buy Tesla stock. You can buy fractional shares through, I don't know, a bunch of brokerages. I don't think there's an ETF that's a good way of buying Tesla stock. Although maybe Alexandra can answer that question. She's still in the chat. I just think in general, if you buy through an ETF, it's usually at most 10% Tesla, and then it's other stuff. Solar doesn't work in a jungle. You got to hack down some trees. You can make room for it. Am I interested in powered paragliding? No, definitely not interested in powered paragliding. That does not excite me. Do I think Giga Indonesia will be a reality? I have a video where I thought it was a possibility. I think it's more likely Giga Indonesia than Giga India. Admiral Medjay says, Warren, over here in Europe, there are some rumors floating around that the Starlink fleet could be an undercover anti-satellite swarm to target Russia and China. What are your thoughts about this? Absolutely not. That is absolutely not the purpose of Starlink. No way. Will we know when Dojo goes live because beta release cadence increases? I think we're going to find out on August 19th a lot more about Dojo. I do think if cadence increases, that's a good indication Dojo is reality, but I think we will hear August 19th and we're going to hear about that. Will I have Starlink with your Plaid life on the road? I ordered a Starlink for my Apocalypse cabin. I haven't gotten it yet. I don't know when I'm going to get it. I don't think I'm going to need Starlink for Plaid life on the road. I don't think that's going to be necessary. I may actually not take the Starlink because I don't know when I'm going to be ready to actually use it, and it's like $100+ a month, plus $500 up front or something like that. So I think I can just wait on Starlink. There are good reasons to diversify a bit, but if you're a full Tesla bull, nothing will convince you. Yes. Thank you, Alexandra. Indonesia could be a bluff to force the Indian government to make a deal. No, I don't think so. I think the Indonesian car market, believe it or not, even though India is a much larger country, India is a much poorer country. Indonesia actually has, I think, a bigger car market than India. A bigger car market in terms of being able to sell cars than the Tesla price range. So, ACE's ETF has Tesla in the top 10 and Phase's largest holding. Let's see. Tesla is the next Tesla containing ETF. Tesla is an ETF. There's like 12 companies inside Tesla. Unintentionally side effect of Tesla taxi. Commute cars go away, but Jeeps and sport cars become super popular and practical. Maybe. Indonesia does help with the nickel problem. Yes, NoobTube. Anyone know what Tesla MX is? Tesla Model X? President Z says he'll blow Starlink up, so I guess time will tell. Why would Jeep blow Starlink up? All right. We've gone an hour. I think I've run out of material. I'm just thinking I haven't seen any Neuralink news. I haven't seen any Boring Company news. The Tesla news is that they're ramping up Shanghai. They're ramping up Berlin. I think we're going to start seeing Texas ramp soon. We're going to start seeing the flotilla of cars. So, all right. So I want to, first of all, if you're still watching right now, I want to ask you, if you're interested, I'm going to do another live stream starting in about an hour on the Locals platform. There's a link in the description below. It's at warrenredlick.locals.com, but there's a link in the description below to the specific video. I'm going to do a video live stream for supporters. So it's for people who are paying supporters. $5 a month, I think, is the cost to join, to support the channel. I'm trying to grow that channel. Also mention the t-shirts. I got a whole bunch of t-shirts, elonbits.com. Please check them out. Please support my other videos. Thank you so much to the moderators for moderating, making sure the chat is smooth. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day. And please come check me out on Locals in about an hour.